Hey guys, it's Rashab, and I'm bringing you day 12 of my Road to Civil War, and this will be the final review in my Road to Civil War. So, in this one, I'll be reviewing Ant-Man, which was directed by Peyton Reed, stars Paul Rudd, Michael Douglas, Evangeline Lilly, and Corey Stoll. So, Ant-Man, when it was coming out, this was coming off the hype of the Avengers: Age of Ultron, which, as you saw from yesterday, I didn't feel was a good movie. So I thought, well, if the Avengers failed, then something like Ant-Man might fail too. And like I pretty much wrote this movie off before it even came out, because when the first trailer was released, I didn't feel it was that good. And I actually knew about Ant-Man. I didn't really find him an interesting character in the comics. But then I found out that they're actually doing the second Ant-Man in this movie. And so in the comics, the first Ant-Man was Hank Pym, and then eventually he retired the suit to another person called Scott Lang, and that's who they were doing in this movie. So I never read Scott Lang's comics, so I actually saw this movie, and I have to say, I found this to be a pretty entertaining movie. So first of all, I really loved Paul Rudd as Scott Lang. Paul Rudd's always been like a pretty funny actor, and seeing him and as Scott Lang was like was a pretty good match between like character and actor. And I felt like Paul Rudd really brought home like the persona and attributes of Scott Lang, and especially like when like say he's a character who's like down on his luck and he's just trying to turn his life around. You really feel for him, especially like when you see he's like the person he's trying to get close to most is his daughter, because he spent a lot of time in prison for hacking a company that was performing some illegal stuff themselves, and he got in trouble for it. So yeah, he's basically trying to reconnect with his daughter most above all, and you really feel for him, like he's down on his luck, he can't get a job or anything. So I really felt like Paul Rudd really brought that persona and like relatability to the character home, and I really liked that. I loved Michael Douglas as Hank Pym. Michael Douglas has always been a really talented actor. My favorite movie of him is The Game, which is one of his older movies, and I really loved him as Hank Pym, as old Hank Pym, and I felt like in a way he was also like Scott, like not as bad, but like he's also trying to reconnect with his daughter, who's played by Evangeline Lilly, and yeah, you also see like he also has like a dark past with the Ant-Man suit, and something happens to his wife that he feels is his own fault. So you feel for him as well, and he's also a pretty relatable character. And in fact, even Evangeline Lilly as Hope Pym, she's also like a pretty interesting character, because in the comics, Hope, she was in an alternate universe where the Avengers had kids, but then the Avengers were killed off by Ultron, and so the kids had to avenge their parents' deaths, right? With the help of Iron Man and Hulk, who were the only surviving Avengers. So I thought it was interesting, because usually these movies are based off the Marvel Earth 616 comics. So the fact that it brought in an alternate universe was pretty cool. And yeah, I mean, Evangeline Lilly, she did a great job as Hope, but I didn't really like her character. I thought she was a bit too snobbish for my taste, and she was giving Scott a hard time for no reason. I mean, not throughout the whole movie, but like when she first met Scott, she was giving him a hard time, and I feel like she was being a bit unfair to him. But yeah, but she did do a pretty good performance. In fact, I'd say all the performances in this movie are pretty good. Even Corey Stoll as Yellow Jacket, I felt like he did a great job as Yellow Jacket. But yeah, Yellow Jacket wasn't that great of a villain, but I'll get to that later. So the story, when I was watching this movie, so it's basically about Hank Pym. He invented a technology that basically makes him like a superhero, I guess. And he's basically trying to keep it out of the hands of a former partner of his, who's running his company now, and he's trying to keep that technology out of his hands, or at the same time, he wants to use the technology for good, right? and basically the person, he gets the technology and he makes his own version of the suit, and in the end the two technologies like they clash and the good guy wins. And if that sounds familiar, that's because that's the exact same plot as Iron Man 1. And I realized that like after I went home from the theaters that day, and I was like just thinking about the movie in my head, and I realized, wow, that's the plot of Iron Man 1. Just replace Hank Pym with Tony Stark, and Yellow Jacket with Obadiah Stane, and the Ant-Man suit with the Iron Man suit, and it's pretty much the same plot. Even the fact that they both have a person on the inside that's close to the villain, while also keeping tabs on him and reporting back to the hero. Like in Iron Man, it was Pepper, and in this movie, it was Hope. So I felt like there were a lot of parallels between Iron Man 1 and Ant-Man. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because like I said, I really enjoyed the first Iron Man movie, and it's a pretty good movie, like especially in the MCU. But I felt like it was a bit too much parallel, and the difference was Iron Man 2 had a good villain, but Ant-Man didn't. Like, his motivations were actually kind of cliche, because he used to be a former mentee of Hank Pym, and then for whatever reason Hank Pym gave up on him, and then basically ever since then he's hated Hank Pym, and he's been trying to figure out a way to kill him and take his Ant-Man suit. And now we're getting to stuff I didn't like about the movie. So this, like I said, they had a cliche villain. I didn't really like the villain at all. And I felt like some scenes were unnecessary. Like, I felt like they took away from the movie. Like, for example, the scene where Scott goes to infiltrate Avengers. I mean, well, not infiltrate. He doesn't know it's the Avengers base at the time. But he basically goes there, and then he fights Falcon, right? So I felt like they only did that to show that he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But they don't need to, because this is a Marvel Cinematic Universe film. But I guess they had to make some way to make the Avengers know he's out there, because he's in Civil War on Captain America's side. So I guess this was like a recruitment for him, like an audition or whatever for him, in a way. But I felt like you didn't really need to incorporate the Avengers into this film. But it was a nice touch, even though Falcon's not that great of an Avenger. The action sequences were actually pretty good in this movie. So there weren't many. There were only really 2 fights in this movie, with the first one being between Ant-Man and Falcon, and the last one being between Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket. But I really liked the fight scenes, especially the one with Ant-Man and Yellow Jacket, because both of them were just like when they're changing sizes and fighting each other, especially when they fight on the train set. That was pretty funny and pretty cool. The effects look like just like it was out of the comics. The way he shrinks in the comics, it looks like they brought it to life in this movie, and I thought that was really cool. The action sequences were great. So yeah, there's not many problems with this film. It's not a perfect film, and there were some things that I felt were, I guess, they took away from the film, like the cliche villain, some unnecessary scenes. But overall, guys, this movie, it was a pretty good movie. It had great acting, it had great direction, it had some pretty good action scenes. The story was good, even though it was a complete parallel to the first Iron Man. The villain was not that good. Some scenes were unnecessary. This movie had the perfect blend of seriousness and the comedy, and this was fine, and like the Guardians, was a fine and unexpected addition to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So overall, guys, I'm gonna give Ant-Man a 7 out of 10. So that concludes my day 12 of my Road to Civil War, and actually this concludes my Road to Civil War segment and my review of Ant-Man. So yeah, those were my thoughts on Ant-Man. So whether you like the movie, just let me know in the comments. And yeah, so I'm going for Civil War tomorrow, so I'll try to get a review out for Civil War after I come back from the movie. But if not tomorrow, definitely it'll be up by Saturday. So yeah, that's my Road to Civil War. So I guess comment below, what is your favorite Marvel Cinematic Universe movies to date? And as always, if you like what you see here and you want to see more, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.